Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the CALS Communications Workshop, Social Media 101. My name is Amanda Kerr. I am the content manager for CALS Communications. We're going to be walking you through pretty much all things social media with Caro Metzler, our social media specialist for NC State CALS and NC State Extension. Take it away, Caro.
Hello, y'all. It's so nice to see y'all this morning. So I'm gonna go through a bunch of slides here. I tried to encompass a lot of information just on some social media tips and tricks, as well as some basic information that y'all might know already too. So I would like if folks could keep questions in the chat and we can answer those questions at the end, just to make sure that we get through everything. And would love to answer y'all's questions a little bit later. So let's go ahead and get started. So here are the things that we're going to discuss today. A couple of different things and a lot about engagement, different things that are recommended to post, measuring success and ads. And also I'll take you through some social media platforms and what differentiates them, as well as some tips for navigating those. The first question that must be asked before embarking on social media is whether your unit needs a social media account. Not every unit needs a social media account. Some smaller units might not. And it also depends on your goals, whether you need certain platforms. Not every unit needs certain platforms like LinkedIn or YouTube per se. So it's important to analyze your goals to make sure that you are using your time correctly and also using your social media correctly. A couple questions are, would paid ads be more impactful than a social media account for your unit? Paid ads specifically have a very high success rate, and you're going to reach a lot more people than a social media account that is a little bit smaller. Even for CALS, our click rate and impressions and views that we get on our posts are, exponentially higher than our traditional organic social media for paid ads. So paid ads are a really good investment. You also need to make sure that you have enough consistent, high quality content to keep a cadence of at least multiple times a week, as well as whether or not you are prepared to represent NC State through your account. As NC State communicators, we all represent NC State through every post that we make. So it's important to make sure that folks that are running social media accounts are aware of the brand and things like that. So I'll go through some strategy and voice tips for y'all. So when you are working with a social media account, especially beginning a social media account, it's important to make a really fleshed out strategy. And it's important to make a fleshed out strategy for every single platform that you use, because goals and audiences are going to be different for each platform. Goals, target audiences, success metrics, and cadence and content are really important to make sure that you have written down and really thought out information about it before jumping in to an account. It's also really important to make sure that this is all written down and to have a really fleshed out strategy that is approved by higher ups and things like that, to make sure that the strategy continues with turnover and things like that. But making sure to do these for each account is important. I have different strategies for all of the CALS accounts as well as the extension accounts. And it helps me reach my goals as well as really define what success looks like for me. Next, I'll go into finding your voice. This is a really important aspect of social media that I think a lot of folks might overlook. It's really important to have a consistent voice on social media and to also have this recorded somewhere for that same turnover purpose. The voice, having a consistent voice helps your followers be aware of who you are. It also just makes the platform more social and personable rather than extremely formal. Some of these examples are from the main NC State account, and they see their brand as being like a cool mom. So it is informational and exciting, a little bit professional, but also has some jokes in there. Certainly nothing too jokey or cheeky or things like that. It's also really important to define what emojis you might use. Emojis are really important in social media to add some color to your text, as well as just some excitement. This is also a fun thing to just think through. Some of the CALS emojis are, cows, plants, vegetables, things like that. And it's kind of important to have consistent emojis that you use as well. Also, thinking out any phrases that you might use. Think and do is always a great one for NC State affiliated accounts. And it's important to also think about how you want your audience to feel when they view and read your content. So just some notes about branding. With every CALS and extension social media presence, or every NC State and extension social media presence, it's very important to follow the brand. This presentation was made with the brand, and so it is, it's got the kind of boxy, simple graphics, and it also uses the fonts that are part of the brand. Our Canva account, the CALS Comm Canva account, has these brand notes, icons, fonts, etc., all preloaded, which is really helpful. But when you're in doubt, refer to the brand book, and for extension, refer to the brand site as well. It's important with both NC State and extension accounts just to recognize that we're all following the brand of the university and extension. So making sure that it stays consistent so that any follower that you have knows that you're part of NC State is really important. And I've got both of those linked here. Also forgot to mention this at the beginning. I'll be sending y'all this presentation after, so taking notes is not as necessary, and I just want to make sure that y'all have all of this information. So I'm going to go into each social media platform and talk about how they work a little bit. First one being Facebook. The audience for Facebook tends to be about a millennial, older millennial and up audience. Not a lot of young folks are on Facebook. There are always exceptions, but the vast majority of our audience, at least with CALS and extension, is about age 30 and up. For NC State affiliates, that includes parents and alumni. And for extension, it includes older extension folks, as well as agent specialists and people who benefit from extension. One of the main things that I really notice about Facebook is that it is the best platform for driving web traffic. If you want to drive web traffic to a piece of content or an event or anything that you're looking to get clicks for, Facebook is the place to go. When I look at my analytics for CALS and for extension accounts, the link clicks from Facebook are the vast majority of our total link clicks. So Facebook is really, really important for that. And I try to post every piece of content that that we're trying to get views on and link clicks to on Facebook. It is really not good for time-sensitive posts, and that's because your post might not show up on a person's feed immediately. It's not like Twitter or Instagram where the timeliness is a bit more important, but for Facebook, they can kind of be recycled and sometimes show up really late. So it's important not to put something like, come to this event tomorrow, because somebody might see it in 3 days. Recaps are a lot better on Facebook, I would say, or just very general, far in advance kind of event reminders. For recommended media, albums like this one over here are very top performers. People on Facebook want to click through the photos. They want to see more photos. And it also is really good for just showing a lot of high quality media. Infographics also do really well, like this one down here for extension. It definitely depends because graphics on each platform are somewhat downgraded by the algorithms. However, on Facebook specifically, folks want to learn a bit more, so infographics are higher performing than other platforms. You can also use links that have pre-populated images, and Facebook Reels are fun to kind of explore, but they can be iffy in terms of viewership. This cadence for recommended cadence down here, this is purely a recommendation. Every account is different and every account's needs are different, but I would recommend posting about 2 to 4 times per week and making sure on Facebook not to post more than once a day. The Facebook algorithm downgrades your account if you post more than once a day. And also your followers might get inundated with your content and get bored or frustrated with seeing so much of you. So it's important to make sure not to post more than once a day unless there's a very, very important thing happening. And this approximate best time to post is truly an approximation. It might be different for your account, but lunchtime and late evening are most of the times that people are on Facebook. And so posting at that time typically will get you a little bit more engagement. Instagram is my favorite platform personally, and it's the one that you can have the most fun with. The audience there tends to be a little bit younger of an audience. Not always. A lot of our alumni are on Instagram, but the vast majority of our audience is age 18 to 30. This includes a lot of students and young alumni. And for extension related accounts, it would include younger folks that are interested. Instagram is really great for vertical video, like this one here. iPhone photo and video that is, taken on an iPhone, looks like it was taken on an iPhone, but is still high quality, like this one over here. Really good for trends, really aesthetically pleasing content, spirited content, and live event coverage via Instagram stories. This story up here was for the convocation earlier this year. I posted probably about 10 different stories following the convocation, just so folks can have that experience on our social media if they aren't there. What a lot of people don't know about is that now carousels outperform reels. That used to not be the case, but at this point with Instagram, carousels are outperforming. Doesn't mean that reels aren't important or that reels aren't still doing well, but the Instagram algorithm is prioritizing carousels right now. The good thing about reels is that they are great for reaching people that are not your followers. Great for incurring more followers. Through the Reels platform, people that aren't your followers might see your content and they might engage with it where they might not have usually seen it before. I would not recommend posting single photos on Instagram in your feed. As you can see in our feed over here, this is from kind of the welcome week time period. There aren't any single photos. They are all carousels or reels. Single photos, Instagram really doesn't like for some reason. I think that they want you to click through a carousel rather than view a single photo. So I would not recommend utilizing a single photo unless you absolutely have to. I would very highly recommend to not post graphics on your Instagram feed. Graphics are very highly downgraded by the algorithm. They are not going to be seen by as many people. And it clutters up your feed in a way when people go to look at your account. For the NC State accounts, we really prioritize having an aesthetically pleasing feed. It helps your brand look good, and it helps people just be pleased when they look at your account. And I would recommend iPhone photo and video rather than headshots, stock photos, or professional photos. Those headshots and professional photos look a little bit less personal, and Instagram is a very personal platform. People want to interact with you as a brand, and not as so much a professional, kind of rigid account. So professional photos and video can still be utilized, but that iPhone photo and video is probably going to do better in terms of how many people see it and engage with it. That recommended cadence, I would say, would be about 2 to 4 times per week on the feed. Doesn't have to be every day. And on stories, once a business day, but more is great. If you dip below this amount, that's okay. But this is a recommended cadence to make sure that the algorithm likes you, and also to make sure that your followers are seeing your content consistently. And approximate best time to post would be around lunch and late evening. On Instagram, a lot of folks with NC State will post really late evening, like 10 p.m. And get a lot of followers and a lot of views. A lot of people go on Instagram really late, right before bed, so it really caps into that that followership there. For LinkedIn, LinkedIn is a bit more of a professional platform. You're going to take a lot more of a professional tone with LinkedIn. It's going to be a different kind of voice than your other platforms, but it still needs to be a little bit personable and not sound very rigid. The audience tends to be kind of that older millennial to baby boomer audience, and it does a lot of professionals. People get on LinkedIn to, enhance their job prospects, to look at their employers and other companies and things like that. So it's a lot of professionals. For the university, that means alumni, faculty, and staff. And for Extension, it means probably folks affiliated with Extension or stakeholders. Links are really not as good as Facebook on LinkedIn, but links are still a priority here. It's also really good for anything like professional announcements, anything newsworthy, or any research. This post up here is a doctoral student profile that got a lot of likes and shares, that is about his research. And this one down here is one of our top performing posts this year about some really cool research, and an electronic patch for plant leaves, which is pretty cool and unique. That research does probably best on LinkedIn rather than other profiles. It's a bit more professional, and so folks like seeing that highly professional, highly kind of research and thought leadership content. It's not very good for trends or humor or time-sensitive posts. Specifically on LinkedIn, even worse than Facebook, your post might show up on somebody's feed 3 weeks later. So events or event coverage is not as great to post on LinkedIn. We sometimes get likes on this one here even, and that was 7 months ago. But that's good too, because it still promotes your content a lot later. Links with pre-populated photos like this one here do well. And videos typically don't do as well unless it is a really important newsworthy item. We posted a really great video about Dean Fox coming in, and that one performed very well. Graphics do not perform as well typically. That isn't always the case, but typically they don't. And a recommended cadence here would be 2 to 4 times per week. And again, not more than once a day. I would say that the not more than once a day rule is most important on LinkedIn. They really don't want you to inundate your followers too much. And it's also important to be selective with your high quality content. And approximate best time to post would be when your followers are most on LinkedIn, which would be early morning, right before work, and that lunchtime break. For the contentious one, X, which is formerly Twitter, This platform is a little bit iffy right now because of everything that's been going on with Elon Musk and different things that are happening with the platform. It's a bit in flux, and I would not recommend starting an X or Twitter account right now just because of everything that is going on. And also because the amount of users on X are decreasing, people are deleting their accounts, and our engagement has decreased a lot because of that. So I would not recommend investing in this one as much, but it's still important to keep up a cadence here if you have an account. That audience tends to be about age 25 to 55. For university-related accounts, that typically tends to be faculty, alumni, and some students here and there. For extension, it is pretty inundated with our researchers, agents and specialists, and stakeholders as well. Twitter is really good for very conversational things like trends and humor. This one up here was a Howlin' Cow video that was a POV. It has a really short caption. There's no link in the caption. There's no call to action. It's about a 3-second video with music. And it did very, very well. Got about 14,000 views on it. So that kind of more trendy, humorous post does very well. Also great for live coverage of events. Posting more than once a day on Twitter is in fact encouraged. So live coverage is great. It's also great for easy cross-sharing of posts. And it's pretty good from a university and extension perspective for research. It's not great for longer videos. There is a limit on the video, the amount of time that a video can be. And it's also not very good for driving web traffic. Twitter and Instagram are probably the worst platforms for web traffic. Links are often very necessary in the work that we do. And so it's important to still link out to the content that we need to link out to, but you're not going to get as much web traffic through Twitter. For recommended media, videos do pretty well on the platform. I've been trying out Square Videos, which was a recommendation from Keishan with CALS Comm. And Square Videos, they will take up more of a person's screen than the traditional 9:16 horizontal video. And that allows people to see it a little bit longer. And sometimes it works very well in your favor. It's better to upload an image rather than relying on a link's pre-populated image. So when you put a link into a post on Twitter and you don't upload an image, it kind of just comes up as this little pop-up. And that is not as appealing to folks. Graphics perform all right on X or Twitter, kind of depends on the content. For recommended cadence, I would recommend once per business day, unless you are covering an event or something like Day of Giving, where you can post a lot more. Approximate best time to post would be early morning before work, that lunchtime break, and after 5 p.m. when people get off of work. For Threads, Threads is new, and it is an offshoot of Instagram. Instagram made this platform in response to Twitter's demise, and it is basically Twitter. It is organized like Twitter. You can respond and repost like Twitter, and you can kind of behave like Twitter. But it's a little bit different in terms of what folks want from it and the audience there. Because Threads is linked to your Instagram account, when you create your account, it takes the followers from your Instagram account and applies them on Threads. So when we joined Threads, we already had about 300 followers because our followers on Instagram that had a Threads account were already following us, which is really great. And it helps you grow your followership, so you don't have to start at zero. So the audience here tends to be about that 20 to 40 age range. It kind of is similar to Instagram with the audience, but it is a little less a little less young. People that are on Instagram that make a threads might be that more millennial crowd. For the university, that means alumni and some students. And for extension, it would mean just younger folks that are interested. It's really, really, really good for trends and humor. And Threads started because it was started in the demise of Twitter, period. Folks were really wanting something to kind of have fun with. So Threads as a platform really revolves around cheekiness and trends and humor. If you post a joke on there, it will get a lot more engagement than something serious like research. So it has a bit of a different tone. It's also great for spirited content, really aesthetically pleasing content, and things like social media holidays. This post down here was for National Ice Cream Cone Day, a really great excuse to post a Howling Cow post. And it got some good engagement there. Really not great for driving web traffic or anything serious, like I mentioned. And for recommended media, photos, carousels, photo video, it all does great. That single photo rule does not apply here. But using something that is aesthetically pleasing is great. Recommended cadence would be about 2 to 4 times per week. And for approximate best time to post, not quite sure. There aren't analytics on Threads quite yet. It's still a very new platform. They launched it pretty quickly to kind of jump in on the Threads demise timing. So they don't have a lot of features that other platforms might have. They don't have analytics, and they don't connect to Hootsuite either, or other scheduling platforms. So it's a bit of a guessing game at this moment. But treating it a little bit like Twitter and a little bit in a trendy way is the best way to go. For YouTube, we're kind of branching into YouTube Shorts on our CALS and extension accounts. And that is similar to TikTok, similar to Reels, taking that same vertical video idea and implementing it on YouTube. And that is going to be a very different audience for Shorts rather than traditional YouTube. The audience on Shorts is going to be a lot younger. It's going to be people that are looking for something really, really short and trendy. And you'll be able to reach folks that are not your followers or who are not quite looking for your content as much, which is helpful. For university purposes, pretty much all ages are applicable for YouTube, but mostly people interested in your niche. We have this video about cicadas that is from 3 years ago that still does very well because people are interested in cicadas. For extension, it would also be those people that are interested in the research coming out of extension. For shorts, it's really important for videos to be very short. There is a 60-second time limit on shorts, and very short videos perform the best, talking 10 seconds or less. Also, very brief research or informational video is also great. And then on traditional YouTube, it's the longer horizontal video that is uniquely informational. And it's not very good for driving web traffic. It is good for that in-platform content. When you're thinking about which platforms you might need for your unit, I've got some things listed here, talked about a lot of these things already, but basically every unit does not need the same platforms. It's a bit of a time suck to invest in platforms that are not going to perform well or are not going to reach your goals. So it's important to make sure to be intentional about which platforms you join. For LinkedIn specifically, a lot of folks might not need a LinkedIn account, but LinkedIn groups are really useful if you're trying to reach your very niche faculty, staff, student audience, and that allows them to engage too. I would not recommend investing in an X account at the moment. And I also mentioned paid ads here, which are really great if you're trying to promote something to a very large audience in the thousands. So this next section is going to be about the intentionality of posts. Talk a little bit about what makes good content. So every post that you make should reflect your goals and target your audience. And I would say the most important thing to take away from this presentation to think about when you are posting at all is that quality trumps quantity. It doesn't, if you post consistently every single day and that content is not as high quality, your metrics are going to show that it is not as impactful. It's way more important to make sure that your content is high quality, unique to you, and well done than to just post just a post. Social media is supposed to be social. So it's important to take a different strategy with your accounts than you would with a newsletter. That means engaging with your followers, taking a bit more of a conversational tone, being a little jokey. So it is a social platform and people want to socialize with you. Implementing social first content, I would say, is very important. Content should not always drive your users to a website, but your social media should be a storytelling platform in and of itself. It is just like a website. It is somewhere that folks go to see your content, see your information. So use it social first in a lot of instances. An example of that is this video up here of our embedded counselor for CALS. We interviewed him in a personal way to show students who their embedded counselor was and to make reaching out to wellness counselors a little less intimidating. This was a social first piece. It was only a social piece, and it was pretty impactful in terms of reaching folks and making folks comfortable with reaching out and getting the care that they need. This post down here, it's a reel about the state fair, and it was a repurposed content from an article that our intern Sydney wrote. And it took things that kind of agriculture related recommended things for the state fair and showed those events and things in a video format. So that's a good way to tell a story and to repurpose some content, but in a social first way. And these stories up here, this one over here is a great way to use a question box to engage with your audience. And this one over here was highlights of First Generation Celebration Week. It didn't have a call to action. It didn't have a link click, but it was purely just social first. And then what not to post. It's really important to be cognizant of every single interaction you have on social media. Every repost, every post, every like, every follow means something, and it reflects NC State and Extension as well. Specifically, it's important not to post political opinions. And that also includes following or engaging with politicians. With CALS and Extension, oftentimes we interact with politicians. They are sometimes part of the content that we make. And it is incredibly important to stay neutral when you are talking about politicians and things like that. This was an Extension post about the new market for turkey producers. And Roy Cooper and a US trade representative visited our turkey education unit, which is really cool. It'll get a lot of engagement, it'll get a lot of views, but it's really important to make sure to be neutral and to talk about that as if it is an event rather than something that we're excited about specifically or have opinions about. Also, religious affiliation, inappropriate language or images. These things are kind of self-explanatory, but it's important just to be cognizant of. One thing that I run into a lot when taking photos and videos of folks on campus is to look for shirts with inappropriate slogans. it might not jump out at you at first. But if you're taking a photo of a crowd and somebody has a shirt on that has an inappropriate slogan, it'll look bad. That also includes the free expression tunnel. None of us in the social hub typically post about the free expression tunnel just because it can get a little iffy. And especially with CALS and extension, it's important to just take care when posting about things that are potentially controversial or contentious. That might mean things that you might not traditionally think about, something like meat production, or alternative meat production, or Christmas tree growing, things like that. It's really important to just take a second look at it and make sure that it might not offend anyone, make sure that it stays neutral on its opinions. And we have some specific topics and kind of more controversial things within CALS and extension than a lot of folks in other units might have. I'm going to talk a little bit about engagement. Engagement on your platforms is extremely important. It is not just about posting. Engaging with other accounts, engaging with your followers is going to get you a lot of followers, and it's going to help boost your engagement and your image. That can look like asking your followers a question in your post. This post over here was for the new flavor of Howlin' Cow ice cream. And it was a great way to interact with folks and kind of encourage them to respond in the comments. It ended up getting dozens of comments about guesses for the flavor. It was a bit obvious what the flavor was, but it got folks excited. And that is a great way to boost your engagement and to boost their image of you too. Also, liking and replying to comments, if it's a compliment or something positive, even just responding a thank you is really great. Important to check your messages quickly and respond with consideration and kindness. And one big one that some folks might not think about is engaging with similar accounts to yours. And that looks like commenting on their posts, reposting their posts, mentioning them in your posts. And it also allows their followers to see you. So for this one up here, that was a reel from the College of Humanities. And it was about whether students prefer typing in lowercase or in uppercase, which is a controversial issue, apparently. And different students had different opinions. So the NC State account, as well as different colleges, responded. And this one here from CALS ended up getting a good amount of likes and some follows as well. And so it just goes to show that engaging in accounts that are similar to yours has positive impact. Another important thing for units to remember is to mention CALS and extension in NC State. If we are to post, or especially if NC State is to repost your post, it's going to get you a lot of views. It's going to get you a lot of followers. So mentioning is really great to make sure that the people that run these accounts, like me and Molly, who runs the NC State account, sees your post. A little reminder of what works for others might not work for you. With social media, nothing is absolute. Your followers and your audience are going to be different than anyone else's. And so trial and error is really the name of the game. But analyzing your social media analytics is really important to make sure that you are reaching your goals and to allow you to improve. We follow our analytics on Hootsuite. Hootsuite is a little bit more expensive, and that might not always be accessible for units and departments. But Facebook Business Suite, as well as in-platform analytics, can be just as informative for you. I really like comparing my numbers to last year at this time, or even our competitors, to get some added understanding about how we're doing. These are some of the important metrics to measure. there are a lot of metrics to measure. Essentially, if you get into Hootsuite and start going through their analytics platform, you can do so many things. But it's important to look at your goals and think about what you want out of your social media platforms and measuring those. One of my personal favorites is engagement rate, which takes the amount of likes, comments, and shares on your posts and divides that by the number of people that see your post. So that is these numbers over here for our accounts in October. For different platforms, different engagement rates are typical. LinkedIn and Instagram typically have the highest engagement rate, which also helps you to kind of focus your content in those platforms and to see which platforms are most impactful in reaching your folks. Another important one that I like to look at is impressions, and that is how many times your posts show up on somebody's screen. It doesn't show it isn't how many people view it, but how many times it shows up. And it's important to measure that just to see how you are doing in the algorithms, to see how you are doing in terms of getting people to look at your posts. And another favorite of mine is looking at your best and worst performing posts, specifically worst ones too. That really helps me streamline my content. It helps me learn. It helps me get better. And making sure that you know what your followers want and what they don't want is really important. This is an example of our Facebook most liked post in October. And that really told me that people, one, like CALS and student spotlights. That is what I know already. And they also like things about Tailgate, event recaps like this, and information about the state fair that we have put out through our website as well. So this is very informative to me and helps me know what to do in the future. Link clicks are also great if you are trying to drive a lot of content or a lot of clicks to your web content. And lastly, talk about paid ads just a little bit. Paid ads are highly effective, like I've talked about already. They will reach thousands more than organic posts. They are paid, which is the unfortunate part, but they reach people that aren't your followers, and they reach a very targeted audience. The Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn ad platforms are very smart, and you can get very targeted with your audience. You can promote only to faculty and staff. You can promote only to agriculture folks. And it's very impactful. They're very great for anything that might need clicks or signups, anywhere you might want to direct web traffic to, really any large project or campaign that you're focusing on. Cost is very dependent. I'd recommend about a minimum of $250, but a smaller budget will still reach folks. It just won't reach as many folks. The more you spend, the more people are going to see and click on your ad. This is an example over here of an ad that we ran for a campaign, and that got about 500 clicks on it, which is a lot more than we would have gotten just with an organic post. And so it's very, very impactful. And if you are interested in running an ad through the CALS account, please reach out to me and Jennifer. Lastly, I've got some frequently asked questions that I've listed out here. Firstly, how to grow your following, kind of that similar engagement begets engagement philosophy of commenting on or engaging with posts from related accounts so that people can see you. Collaborating with larger accounts or mentioning them in hopes of them reposting, and then just producing high quality content that is unique to you. That unique to you aspect is very important. People want to follow you to see your unique content. So making sure that your content is special and is high quality will get you a lot more engagement and followers. Hashtags are, I would say, not very necessary. That is another controversial opinion. But for NC State and extension related accounts, hashtags are not as important as one might say a product account or an account trying to sell something. Our audiences are a little bit more insular, and they're going to be people that are affiliated with or interested in our departments, units, colleges. So hashtags are not going to be as impactful. For the main NC State account, they pretty much only use hashtags for the NC State related campaigns like Think and Do or How Back. They don't really use any other hashtags. And it also helps it look cleaner. Hashtags can really muddy up your copy. And so I would not recommend them a lot. If you do use them, 1 to 3 is helpful, but certainly not any more than 3. Appealing to the algorithms is unique and a little bit difficult. The algorithms for each platform changes constantly, and so it's a little difficult to keep up with it. But the main goal of every single social media platform is to keep your audience on your app. And it's a bit insidious in that way, but when you think about it, and that way they're going to make more money and they want people to stay on the app. That is why links will get downgraded by the algorithm, because they don't want you to leave. But for our work, links are often necessary and important. So thinking about that in terms of not making every single post a link, but also utilizing them intentionally. Any media that has human faces in it or animals are going to get bumped up. Social media loves human faces. It is social. People want to see humans. So those photos or videos are going to get prioritized. For negative comments, these are a little bit scary and unfortunate, but always err towards doing nothing. Deleting negative comments is a really bad look, and responding can get very tricky and can often put you in more hot water. If you get a really bad or inappropriate comment, please reach out. I want to help, and it's important to kind of get multiple eyes on it too, just because if it's specifically bad, it can be impactful for the university or extension as a whole. What's happening with Twitter? I don't know. Elon Musk has been throwing curveballs consistently, so I am not entirely positive of what is going to happen with Twitter. His most recent update was starting to implement paid program for every single user on Twitter, which is certainly going to tank the app. So we're just keeping abreast of the updates and the news that is going around. But I would certainly not recommend investing in that platform or investing a lot of time there at this moment. And final tip from me is just to make sure that multiple people have access to your social media channels. Many more social media channels have been lost than folks would like, because somebody left the company or somebody lost the account or the password. So it's really important to make sure that multiple people have access. Multiple people might not be posting on it, but it's important to make sure that people know how to gain access just in case. And I would really like folks to work with me if you would be interested. If you'd like me to promote your content on our channels, please reach out. I want to help you, and my goal with both of these accounts is to promote things coming out of every department, every unit, and all over extension. I can't do everything, but I want to help. So please email me if you are interested. And I will go into some Q&A if folks have questions. Will this presentation be shared with us? Yes, I'm going to email y'all this presentation after this presentation. WhatsApp. WhatsApp is interesting. It is a lot more popular in other countries than the US, but it is gaining popularity. We haven't really delved into that. It is a bit more of a social platform rather than a brand-oriented platform, if that makes sense. Kind of like Reddit, where we can't really post as much content that people are going to see that might not be conversational. So I don't know a ton about WhatsApp, but I wouldn't recommend investing in it at this time. For inappropriate and negative DMs, also scary, also annoying. I would recommend sharing those with a couple people to get some extra eyes on it. And also just err towards not responding. For spam ones or inappropriate ones, deleting is just fine. But for negative ones, not responding is sometimes the best thing to do. If it is very negative and maybe a question, that might need a response. But that might be something to reach out to the folks that are at the main NC State level, just because responses can reflect the position of the university. It might be a PR issue. So just making sure to get multiple eyes, but just err towards nothing. Resources for various algorithms or tips for staying informed. Trial and error is part of the game. I have certainly learned a lot from being here with CALS and Extension and how our accounts are different than others. And that's why those success metrics are really important. But for resources for the news and things like that, I would highly recommend Social Media Today. That's a newsletter that gets sent to your account, I believe, or your email every single day. And it helps you stay abreast of the updates that are coming out pretty consistently. Let's see, there is also I believe it's out of New York Times, but it's a podcast called Hard Fork, and they go into a lot of different kind of tech industry updates. It's a bit of a higher level, a bit more Silicon Valley, but they will really get into and interview a lot of folks that are in the social media realm, owners of social media platforms, etc. So that one's really helpful, and it comes out on a weekly basis. Calendar and planning in advance, also very important. I saw that question before the presentation and wanted to put it in, but there was so much. Creating a content plan can be very complex. So I would love to do a future presentation on that, and can get very in-depth with that. Some basic tips for creating a content plan would be to use a platform that has a calendar on it. I frankly use Google Sheets. I find it easiest. I've tried Monday and I've tried Trello, but Google Sheets allows me to see everything in one singular screen without clicking. I typically like planning out my content in terms of planning out kind of long form, trying to keep a calendar of about a month or 2 months. And that looks like writing down any important events that are happening within your department or unit or college. It includes writing down any holidays or things that you might want to promote at different times. For Thanksgiving right now, we've got, how to thaw your turkey, and that's very timely. So making sure to place that in ahead of time so that you don't forget. But I typically will plan out my specific content of what exactly I'm going to post on each day, at least a week in advance. Those things often change because of different priorities. So it's important to be flexible. But I like to plan it out a week in advance just so that I know what's coming and to stay ahead of things. And I also like to write out my copy in advance as well, and schedule posts as early as possible. It really helps me as a manager, and also helps me just stay on top of things and stay ahead of things rather than purely just responding. Let's see. Event date and application deadlines. Which platform would you most recommend for sharing events and opportunities like internships? For events, I would say it depends on your audience, but I would say Instagram is great. Instagram stories are great, specifically for things like internships that are going to be for a younger audience. That can be a little bit, you don't have to plan that out as far in advance. If you are using Facebook to promote events, I would post pretty early, about at least a week early, and make it more generalized. But if you are also trying to promote those internships to parents, which can be helpful, I found that on Facebook, sometimes I will post things that are for students, but that a parent might forward to their student, and that can sometimes get a lot of engagement. So Facebook for that kind of opportunity for internships would be helpful. But I would recommend Instagram stories for student-focused things like internships, and Facebook. And if you have access to LinkedIn, LinkedIn could be helpful. What NC State accounts are knocking it out of the park? The main NC State account is fantastic. Molly, who runs that account, is incredible and has been with us, I believe, for 7 years. I like to follow that in terms of making sure that the brand and the voice that we use is similar, just because we all represent NC State. So making sure to follow that and see what they're doing has helped me a lot. I would also say, let's see, the NC State alumni account does really, really great work, and they do a lot of social first things. They don't produce as much content that is individual to them on their websites, and so a lot of it is social media. They're fantastic. I would recommend following them. I would also recommend following our Apply NC State account, which is for first year admissions. They do a lot of really great trendy things. Cora, who runs that account, is also fantastic. All of our colleges approach social media differently, and they are all fantastic. So each of them takes a little bit of a different approach. Also great to learn from them. Scheduling tools outside of Hootsuite. I have not used scheduling tools outside of Hootsuite myself. I know that some folks use Later, but I believe that Later is a lot cheaper than Hootsuite, for sure. But Hootsuite has, I would say, the most capabilities out of any scheduling platform. It is expensive, though, and so it is not always accessible. With Meta Business Suite, if you have a Facebook account and Instagram account, you can also schedule posts through there, which is in platform and free. But I don't have as much experience with other scheduling tools outside of Hootsuite, but I know I've heard good things about Later. I believe that is all of our time. I can answer this last question. So follow. Easily follow and reshare from other accounts. I would recommend, Hootsuite can be a little bit difficult for that. They do have streams for following certain accounts, but I would recommend turning on notifications for each account that you are wanting to follow. I have on notifications for all of the colleges at NC State, and I have on notifications for every CALS department. And so that way I see all of their posts. And that way, it's really easy for me to see it and reshare it. I'll also use Twitter lists, and I will go and see all of our departments in one list. And that way I can scroll through and reshare. Facebook, I don't believe so, unfortunately. You can turn on notifications, which I would recommend.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you so much, Caro. That is time for today. Of course, feel free to reach out to Caro individually if you've got questions or want some assistance. But thank you all so much for coming. And Caro, thank you so much for the presentation today.
Thank y'all. And please feel free to reach out to me if you have questions. I would love to do social media workshops like this in the future to answer more questions. And would love to work with y'all too to help promote your content.
Have a great day, everyone.